everybody.
Hi, what's up guys? We are back with story time. Finally, I know it's been a long time. If you're new to our channel, we do a segment called story time where we basically, just tell about us, tell about our experiences, tell stories. I know we call it story time and YouTube has this weird way of like making that dramatic, but these really are just experiences from us. Also, if you're new to our channel, my name is Markel, or I go by Kale as well.
My name is Jessica, and I go by Jess.
She goes by Jessica by no one, not even her mother.
No.
If you haven't watched our other storytime videos, we've just basically kind of covered ground of how we got together and our story, the beginning stages of it. Yeah. So go check those out if you haven't. We'll link them in the description too. I know you guys have been waiting forever. We, in a way, have been waiting too because we kind of didn't know where do we go from here. You know, we've kind of covered how we happened, but we didn't know how to get into deeper stuff than that. You know, it's scary and it's weird and it's hard to talk about, so.
And we don't want to hurt anybody along the way either.
Right, like these are sensitive topics, so bear with us. And if you haven't heard yet, this video is going to be about religion. We come from Mormon backgrounds, and we'll jump into that in just a second of what that means. But the reason that we knew that religion was where we wanted to go next in our story time segment was because that is something that is constantly in our comments, in you know, DMs or emails or whatever it is. People are always curious about, you know, we came from religious families and how did that how is that a part of our story, basically? So that's where we got to here.
Right. And a lot of people come from different religions too, so they're asking a lot of advice when it comes to just religion in general and how to combat being, you know, gay and being raised in a very religious family. How do you come to terms with that?
Yeah. So we're going to cover a few things. We're going to try to keep it simple-ish. We could talk about this for hours and hours on end. So we thought the best place to start for this would be to tell what our religion is. For those of you who have never heard of the LDS religion, or Mormons is what we're commonly known by. That's where we come from. That's what we were born and raised in. We live in Utah, and Utah is known for their Mormons, and there's a reason why there is a lot of Mormons here. So we're gonna jump right into it. When I was like, okay, well, I should probably define the LDS religion. LDS stands for Latter-day Saints, is what they're called, but most people just say Mormons. So we'll use both terms.
Or LDS for short.
Yeah, so I thought the best way to get into this would be to define that first, and then when I was trying to define it myself, even though I was raised in it my entire life, I was like, what is it? So I Googled it, and that didn't really help. But the Wikipedia definition...
Wikipedia, that is solid facts.
Wikipedia, when you type in what is the LDS religion, says the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is a non-Trinitarian Christian Restorationist church that is considered by its members to be the restoration of the original church founded by Jesus Christ. So a big question a lot of times is, are you guys Christian? Yes, we highly believe in Jesus Christ.
And it was restored by Joseph Smith. That's who restored our gospel for these latter days, hence Latter-day Saints.
Yes. So the religion was founded by a boy named Joseph Smith in 1830. They believe in having a modern-day prophet. Currently it's a dude named Russell M. Nelson. They use the Bible, and they also have something specific to them called the Book of Mormon. To become a member, you're baptized at the age of 8. They have a little interview and they say, do you want to be a member? And you're like, yeah! And so you get baptized by being somebody with the priesthood, takes you and they dunk you under the water, and that's how you're a member. The biggest thing is they put a huge focus on families and being with that family forever and all eternity, and the way to do that is through temple, marriage, or being sealed in the temple. If you want more information on those things, you can look it up. You can have Mormon missionaries come to your house or whatever.
There's probably a lot of things that you've heard about Mormons. One of the big things that you've probably heard is that they're all polygamous. They are not anymore. We do have the same dad's name,
but we have one dad, one mom.
Right.
They don't have multiple wives. They did used to practice polygamy. I don't know exactly when they stopped, what the year was. It was a long time ago. They're not polygamous anymore.
Right. My dad's name's Mark and her dad's name's Mark, though.
But they have one wife.
Yeah.
Let me make that very
Yes.
clear.
Yes. Another thing that I often got growing up from people actually was that we have horns.
I don't know where that comes from.
I'm not sure.
I promise we don't.
We don't.
And someone explained it to me before, but I forgot. I have a lot of friends that when they'd go out of state to play sports, people would ask to fill their horns when they found out they were Mormon.
Yeah.
We don't have horns.
No. They do have a thing, it's called the Word of Wisdom, and it is they don't drink coffee or alcohol.
They don't smoke. They don't do drugs. And big thing, I'm sure you've heard, is that they don't have sex or any sort of sexual intimacy before marriage.
Right. And then the biggest thing is they take a pretty big stance when it comes to homosexuality.
Yes, you could say that.
Yeah. So, and that is going to lead us into kind of what we want to talk about today.
Yeah, we get so many questions about how does your religion handle homosexuality and you being in a relationship and how's that affected that. So we'll talk about the LDS religion's stance on homosexuality. And again, I wanted to make sure I didn't skew that, so I googled it again and I got this from LDS.org. Their stance on homosexuality is: the church distinguishes between same-sex attraction and homosexual behavior. People who experience same-sex attraction or identify as gay, lesbian, or bisexual can make and keep covenants with God and fully and worthily participate in the church. Identifying as gay, lesbian, or bisexual or experiencing same-sex attraction is not a sin and does not prohibit one from participating in the church, holding callings, or attending the temple. Basically, to sum that up, they have, and this is pretty recent because it didn't used to be this way. It used to be if you're gay, that's a sin. But recently they have said it's okay if you're gay or lesbian or bisexual or whatever. If you identify as that, that's fine. But the sin is in the behavior. So if you act on it, it's considered a sin.
So that leads into what happened a couple years ago, back in 2015. The church again made a stance that they came out and announced that anybody that is homosexual and practices homosexuality is considered an apostate in the eyes of the Lord.
What that means is they would put us in the same grouping as, for example, murderers, rapists, child molesters, people who abuse or domestic violence, pretty much the most horrific things that you can think of. They put us in that grouping.
Right.
And consider us apostates.
Yeah. Why know when that came out in 2015, that was a pretty heavy hitting statement.
Oh yeah.
For a lot of people, not just people from the LGBT community, but members themselves.
You felt it go through the entire religion, all of the members. I don't feel like people were just oh, okay. It was either yeah, we hate them, or it was whoa, hold on a second. Because also, something we left out is at the same time when they stated that, they also came out with something saying that if there's a child who has parents that are in a same-sex marriage, that child can't be baptized when they're 8. They have to wait until they're 18, and in order to be baptized, they have to denounce the sins of their parents.
Right.
So, between both of those, it was just a lot.
Yeah.
And this information got leaked, so it was it's crazy. It was all crazy, and LGBT people were really affected, but really members as a whole were affected. We've given you the what's and the facts and everything. So now we'll kind of get into our experiences with growing up in the religion and then, heavy hitting stuff like this. So before we get into that, I do just want to say, I know that religion is something that just can stir up so much emotion, right? It's you don't talk about religion and politics because you're gonna upset somebody or say something wrong, or your opinion's gonna differ and it's hard to take. So If this is something that's gonna upset you, one, I'm sorry if we offend you in some way. It's not our intention. But also just know we're trying to just have an open discussion about our experiences and feelings, and we're not here to drag any religion. That's not us.
No.
We're totally at peace with where we are personally at right now.
Right.
So if you're here to listen to us drag the Mormon religion, that's not going to happen. If you're here to be upset about what we say, I'm sure there's going to be something that you can either twist our words, or we don't word it right, or it sounds wrong and it's not the way we meant it. So, you know, if you're here for that, then so be it. But hopefully you're just here to hear about our experiences, and maybe it'll help someone, maybe it won't.
We're here to do our best.
Yeah.
And explain it the best we can. We're human too.
I promise we're not trying to offend anybody or make anybody upset.
Yeah.
But odds are, like I said, when you're talking about sensitive personal topics like this, it's not always going to be 100% right to everybody. So
you're free to believe what you believe. That is the biggest thing, is like, you can believe what you believe, I can believe what I believe, and that's great. You are free to do that.
With that said, we're just gonna talk, right? So what were your feelings personally when they came out and said this information that we're apostates and this, that, and the other?
I think my first initial reaction was, I was really angry. I was really, really angry because I hadn't had really hard feelings towards the church. Yes, they disagreed with homosexuality. I knew that. But I haven't had hard feelings towards them until that moment. When I felt like, you're going to put me in the same category as these people, when all I'm doing is loving a person. I'm not causing harm to anybody, but you're going to put me in that category? Like, that is so hurtful, that I'm trying to be the best person that I can be every single day. And you're pretty much telling me that I'm the worst of the worst. It was hard. It was really hard for me. I was angry. Then I was sad. It took me a while to come to grips with the whole kid thing. And like I told you, I've come around to where I can understand their view a little bit more now. If we had an 8-year-old, or if we had a kid that was going to church, well, that kid is being taught that what his moms are doing is wrong. That could be very, very conflicting for a child. It is hurtful to me, though, that if we have a kid and, you know, he or she wants to join the church when they're 18, by all means, they're free to do that. I'm not going to tell our children what they can and can't do. Right. But it is hurtful to me that they have to denounce the sins of the two mothers that raised them. That is really, really hurtful. So that's kind of how I felt about it. It's still, when I start to think about it and talk about it, it does start to make me a little bit angry again, because it blows my mind that you could consider two people who all they're doing is loving each other and being the best that they can be every single day, that you can put me in the same group as a rapist, or a child molester. And it brought about feelings that, because a misconception among the LGBT community, and I've had it before directed towards me, is that we are like pedophiles, and we are, you know, it isn't. And I think that's what also made me so mad, is that because that's already a misconception, is that you are putting us in that category, and I feel like it's going to strengthen that misconception. You know, that's...
I agree. I totally agree. I would pretty much ditto what you said. That's pretty much how I felt at the time as well. It was, only a couple years ago, really. Mm-hmm. So we'd been living together for a while. We're serious, you know, we've been dating for years and years and years, and we're in a good spot. And then this news comes out, and it just kind of whoa, it kind of rocks you, you know. And we haven't been practicing Mormons for a while. And I mean, this is kind of a reason why it's hard to be a practicing Mormon and be in an openly gay relationship.
But if you want to do it, you know, it's...
Yeah, I'm not saying it's
right,
not possible,
right,
or that you shouldn't do it. For us, it just felt like it was hard.
It was hard.
You know? So it's not even that, that part of me was threatened, oh no, what am I going to do? I don't want to be an apostate. It was more just why? Why is this happening?
That's what, yeah. What like stats? I don't know how to word it.
Well,
What
I mean,
statistically?
I don't
What put us in that category?
I don't think that statistics
No,
are
I
playing
know.
into this
I'm
decision.
right.
But
I'm just trying
I get
to
what you're
word it.
saying.
Like,
It's like,
what caused?
in what world are we related to that? Is
Right.
like what you're saying.
Right.
And for me, I try my best to make good decisions, right? And be a good person at heart. And I'm not perfect, and I mess up, and I have to work at things. But to me, it felt like, so everything else that I do doesn't matter, right? I've chosen to live my authentic self and accept myself, and I've chosen to love this person endlessly, you know, and be in a relationship till the end of time with this person. And that right there is enough to just say, well, it doesn't matter. You are the same as a murderer. You're the same as a rapist.
You're set up for failure.
Yeah, it kind of felt that way. Like, okay, so should I just be a shitty person? Should I just do whatever the hell is best for me in the moment, even if that's not ethical? You know, because no matter what, the decisions that I've made to be myself and not hide that, not push that back, and being in love with you is enough to, like, pretty much damn me, you know? That's where I was pissed. And it made my mom really upset, and that pissed me off too. Because not only is that upsetting for somebody who is gay and is acting on that, but how upsetting for their families.
Right.
Nobody wants to hear that about their family.
A lot of people were very confused, people of the LGBT community and people outside of it. It was a very confusing time when they came out and said that.
I would say that that's probably been the biggest trial for us.
Not as a couple. It didn't hurt us as a couple.
No, it didn't. I don't think it changed anything at
No.
all. We comfort each other through it, you know?
Yeah, we very much processed through that. I did a lot of talking because I think that was the biggest thing for me that really, like, what? I had a hard time with that one. What were your feelings towards the church at the very beginning of...
Like when we got together?
Yeah.
I was obviously active in the church. My parents had a rule when it came to church and attending church and church activities that if you wanted to hang out with your friends on the weekend, you had to go to church on Sunday. So I was active. I was pretty much there every week unless they gave me a reason that I didn't have to be, you know? It did feel like I was being pulled in two different directions, you know? And at the time, and pretty much for the whole time I was in high school, our relationship was a secret.
Mm-hmm.
And that made it really hard for me. It felt in a way like I was being two different people.
Yeah.
In a lot of aspects, but I
Really?
feel like religion did tie into that.
We were kind of living a double life.
In a way, it felt like that.
Right.
And it's really hard to explain. I don't know if you can, like, see the wheels turning in my head, because it's hard to put myself back in that place because that was a long time ago. It was like 11 years ago, and so it's hard to remember who that person was. But I also, I think, knew that once I graduated and moved out of the house and was kind of my own person, that I was going to pursue a relationship with you, and the church wasn't my end game. Does that make sense? I knew the whole time, even when I would go to church and even when I would learn things and feel good spiritual feelings, I knew that it wasn't my end game.
Right.
And I don't know if that's just solely because of who I am and that I'm gay and that I wanted to be with you,
Mm-hmm.
or if it was that way all along. It's hard to know.
Right.
You know, it's hard to separate the two because we got together so young, and so that's a really weird gray area for me to know if I would have just taken that route anyway, or if I did it mainly because it didn't line up with who I felt I was. I don't know if any of that makes sense.
It's okay.
It's really
It's complex.
hard to explain. Seriously.
Yeah. It's complex. What's interesting for me is in my coming out story, which you can go back and watch, I talk about when I don't remember, I was in middle school, that I had a dream. And what's interesting is through that, I had a harder time than when we actually got together. When it became actual real life.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know.
Do you feel like that was you trying not to be that person, and then when you were, it was just kind of like, well,
Okay.
yeah.
Maybe. I mean, that's not to say that I didn't eventually start to have a time, because when our families found out, I lost my mind. As far as it came to like church and stuff and our religion, I never really had a difficult time until everybody found out. And that's kind
And
of the guilt, the pressure.
Yeah, the pressure was kind of on.
Yeah. We're gonna get into some questions.
Yeah, we asked you guys on Twitter and on our last vlog to ask any questions.